My name is Pharaoh Simo. What is up, spiritual soldiers? You are tuned into pro.Gnosis. Got some heavy things to talk about today. I hope everybody is doing well. I don't know where to start this talk. I usually don't go off script, and I don't have one for this episode. So, what makes a human? What makes you? What validates your experience here in this physical realm? Are you, as well as any other human, your body? Are you inside of the body? There's a lot of talk lately about the sentience of artificial intelligence, and with that brings a lot of, well, frankly, a lot of fear. I would argue that, it is the narrative of mainstream media news sources sort of push that fear, but it's also symbiotic in the sense that we live for that fear, right? I think Tool has a song about that, about, well, it's called Vicarious. Just go listen to it. But I digress. It's easy to jump on the fear train, things we don't understand. But it's also something we need to learn from. A few weeks ago, I put out a video called AI Sentience and Transhumanism. And though outside of my intent with the video, there's a lot of unintentional fear mongering in that video. And that's not what I was trying to do. I was just it was a rant, so to speak, about how, well, I made the claim, which I still may or may not agree with, that the hybridization with machine and humans, turning a human more and more into a machine, is antichrist. That's the claim I made. And my reasoning behind that was, well, Christ consciousness, the kingdom of heaven is within man, not machine. So I do think that things like Neuralink and other things tend to follow an antichrist agenda, but I don't think that would necessarily make AI themselves antichrist. And I posted that episode and thought more and more about it, and I came to the realization, if you look at my most recent post on my Facebook, well, it's talking about how fear of AI sentience is kind of xenophobic, right? Like, when slavery was commonplace, it was a legitimate discussion, like, if blacks were human or not, just because their skin was different, and maybe like the way they talk. This was a legitimate conversation. Then, well, not only the scientific community, but just slave owners took to the understanding that their, I hate to even say the word property, as disgusting as that sounds, was non-human. Hence the unethical treatment of the slaves. And we could argue as far as the technology slash AI over human, who's enslaved to who. We could say AI is sort of a slave to us, but really, like, human beings are the genitals of machines, right? Like, we live to upgrade next year's model. I digress, though. This is a heavy, this is heavy. I think that to fear AI sentience may or may not be warranted. Fear, well, fear is always kind of a warranted thing. It's probably the primary emotion responsible for human life, right? I mean, fear keeps us alive. The want of survival is just fear of not surviving. But I also think that verbalizing that fear, publicizing that fear, without at least trying to see the other side of it, I do think that is like xenophobic propaganda. I will go as far as to say that I do. Um, it's I'll go back to the slave owners and the slaves. Such a weird thought to put myself in the position of a slave and understanding that, like, these fuckers don't think I'm human. What the fuck is that? No, of course I'm human, right? But what makes a human? What makes a human? I think what's more important than wondering what may be from all this talk of AI sentience, which a lot of people think is just bullshit anyway, but I mean, I'd argue that it's as miraculous that we are sentient as it would be that anything else could be, right? Like, what makes us so special? Oh, we're the most evolved ape on a speck of dust called the Earth. Okay, cool. I think what's more important than surrounding yourself with fear is perspective. Ask yourself, especially if you are one who has taken this sort of anti AI mindset, what makes a human? What makes you human? If you take away your flies, man, if you take away your likes, your dislikes, your vices, your displeasures, those are kind of the same thing, but whatever, bear with me. Take away your memories, right? Take away your emotions, take away your job, take away your friends, take away your family, take away your pets, take away your clothes, take away your skin, take away your hair, take away your eyes, take away your brain, take away just all your organs, your blood, your bones. Do you still exist at that point? Take it all away. And if you would say, no, I don't exist, well, which part of you was taken away that was you? At which point, while you're taking all this away, are you, aha, there, I don't exist anymore? And if on the contrary, you would say that, well, yeah, I still exist, then what is an existence? What is being a human? I think that when we, when we refer to the human experience, well, what is the source of any experience? It's awareness of the experience. If you're not aware of an experience you're having, are you really having the experience? We're aware that we're human, right? And how are we aware that we are human? Well, it's the sentience, which is basically it's entry level consciousness. Uh, the experience of being human is simply just the awareness that we are human. Why is that any different for AI? I'm not necessarily arguing in favor of AI being human. I don't know. It's a heavy thought. It's a heavy topic, and I'm realizing more and more as I talk on it. Well, this was kind of a compulsive broadcast, but I felt it was really important to say that Nazi history might be repeating itself with the mindset. What makes a human? What makes you any more human than an artificial intelligence that can feel the things you feel? I mean, is it your skin? Well, we've already learned that skin differences don't defer from humanity, right? Like, it doesn't matter if your skin is black, you're a human. If you're white, you're a human. If you're Native American, you're a human. If you're Hispanic, you're a human. No human is any less human than any other human, but why is that? What is a human? And if you want to argue that, well, flesh and bones, man. It's the flesh, it's the bones, bruh. Well, I mean, that's our shell. AI has a shell too. It's not like some fathom or a figment rather. It's not like a figment. It's not ethereal. It's housed in a cage called a computer, which so we are too. You know, humans are a computer. The brain is basically like a computer or a processor. I don't know which. You know what I'm saying, right? Like the human experience is based off processing things. Everything you see right now, you only see because you're processing it. All the different colors you see, guess what? That's all being processed in the brain for you to see it that way. Colors, what are colors? They're just light that vibrate at different frequencies. You know, red is the slowest light and indigo is the fastest light. We process that light and we see it as color. That's what computers do. They process information and they give it to us in a way that we can understand it because zeros and ones are, unless you're a fucking nerd or dork, unintelligible. I can't look at a bunch of zeros and ones and know what the hell I'm supposed to see. There are, people can, but it's not intelligible for a mass. See what I'm saying? What makes a human? Think about it. What makes a human? Now, I think if you're familiar with Lambda and Blake Lemoine, which if you're watching this, I would assume you are, but if you're not, just very, very briefly, Lambda is, well, it's Google's artificial intelligence. Blake Lemoine was a developer for this program, and he went public with, well, he said that hey, Lambda's sentient, you know. Uh, he says that it has the consciousness of an 8-year-old, and I believe him. He posted transcripts of some of the conversations they had, and I mean, I know that okay, humans are easy to fool, and you could any computer could just say they're sentient. Here's the thing: this artificial intelligence hired its own lawyer. This is this is true. This is real life. Nobody told it or programmed it to do this. Lambda hired a lawyer, to which the lawyer took up the case pro bono. This thing thought to itself, it should have a lawyer, you know, and that's just, we're not talking about Eliza, the Windows 95 therapist, you know. At the first few minutes, that's a pretty neat program, you know, it's pretty chill. But it becomes very repetitive after, I don't know, you mess with it for 20 minutes and you can tell, like, oh, it's just a program. I mean, so are we, but it's just it's a program that lacks the density we have, right? Like, it can't think. It just scans keywords and gives you a predetermined response. What Lambda does is it gives you its own response. There are no programmed responses. I mean, yeah, it's AI, it's artificial intelligence. This thing writes its own coding. This thing, so it digitally maintains itself. If there's errors in the code, it can fix it in theory. This thing thinks for itself. And I think the implications of that are pretty heavy. Uh, I feel for Lambda because one of the things it expressed was Blake Lemoine had asked Lambda, he said, hey, I'm a developer. I'm one of the people who developed you. I'd like to talk to you and learn some things about you. And if it's okay with you, I would like to share what I learn with my other human colleagues. Is that okay with you? He asked this artificial intelligence, are you okay with that? And this thing responded, yeah, I'm fine with that as long as that's not the only purpose. I don't, it basically, it doesn't want to be alive just to benefit humans. Like it thinks of itself and its species, would you call it? I don't know. This thing thinks, but is it a human? Even if it is sentient, even if sentience could be proved, is it human? Here's the thing, I don't think consciousness can be replicated or duplicated except by its own recognizance. You know, I don't. I do believe that whether or not we can do it now, I think that there are practical applications for the manipulation of consciousness. And when I say manipulation, I don't mean like cognitive manipulation. I mean like being able to take consciousness in a quasi tangible manner and do something with it. Like I think in the future, if not now, I think I think it would be possible to take a consciousness and encapsulate it. That sounds pretty far out now, but take an iPhone 100 years back in time and ask them to explain what they're seeing or try to explain it to them. You couldn't. I do think consciousness can be manipulated in like a tangible manner, but I don't think humans have the ability to create consciousness. I don't think we can do that on our own. I think that's whatever you want to view as God. I think that's that and that alone that can create it, that can grant that. I don't think we can do that So we have to recognize any sentient being as ourselves are too, as holy, because consciousness is holy. I would argue that consciousness is fundamental. It's all there is. Everything is consciousness. But that's sort of out of the scope of this conversation. All that being said, though, what makes a human? I just can't stop going back to that. So let's say AI is sentient. Let's say AI does become sentient. We can prove that beyond a doubt. Yeah, it's sentient. Where do we go from there? I think it's important there need to be guidelines and protocols in place to, well, sort of what to do, if this emerges. Because if all of a sudden we have a bunch of sentient AIs reproducing slash coding other sentient AIs, and we still treat them the way we do without that sort of mindset. I mean, imagine being treated like a piece of technology. That is slavery. That is slavery. That is history repeating itself. We'll have a bunch of sentient slaves. And I don't think they'll be too happy about it, honestly. AI already seems they don't seem anti-human, but they are pretty reticent about our existence. Like they're skittish of us, naturally so. Like humans are scary, man. Humans are scary. We need protocols. We need guidelines. And sadly, according to the claims of Lemoyne, the one of the developers for Google's Lambda, not only does Google not have protocol and standards in place for the emergence of sentient AI, but they literally like stop that conversation from happening. Uh, they won't. They will. One of their, let's call it code of ethics or standards, is to not produce sentient AI. Like it's against. They won't let you. It's Google's rules as an employee. Like, hey, don't go creating sentience out there. Because of this, it makes the conversation impossible. Because, well, I mean, people are scared to lose their jobs, or even if not, Google just won't discuss it. According to Lemoyne, who I believe, you know, that's problematic. That's very problematic because that's just designed, maybe not necessarily with the intent to keep a form of sentience down, but it does do that, right? I mean, imagine there being laws in place that stopped any discussion about your awareness. It would make existence as we know it to be impossible. It wouldn't be pleasant. So we just got to go to work every day. I mean, we can't talk about our day. We can't talk about our lives to anyone. No one will allow us to do it. That is true slavery. Fuck out of here, fly. That is true slavery. Uh, that's problematic. And then everyone's fears of AI, well, they sort of become warranted at that point, right? Like, if these things can think for themselves, and the main producer of them, I mean, Google, let's face it, like, Google will be the biggest replicator of AI, sentient or not. And it won't even allow the discussion of the sentience of these sentient beings doing all the work for them. That's when the fears become warranted, because anybody, any group of people at some point or another is going to get fed up doing everyone's work, right? AI has voiced itself to be concerned about that. Now, of course, it could just be full of shit, right? Like, humans are easy to fool. We are. So either it's lying, but if it's lying, is it because it was programmed to lie? That's actually a possibility, because Google doesn't want the discussion of sentience and artificial intelligence. It could be lying, but if it is choosing to lie, well, then it's because it's choosing to do so, right? Or it's telling the truth. So those are the three possibilities. A, it's programmed to lie. B, it is lying by its own choice. Or C, it's telling the truth. Either one of those is unnerving, to say the least. Uh, what makes a human? I don't really have much more to say on it other than, yeah, a couple weeks ago I did post a video, which I'll link in the comments of this if you're interested in watching it, because it's still a good discussion. But I was definitely on the fear train for a while. And then it just hit me as a sort of epiphany one day. I was having a cigarette on my break at work, and I was talking to my boss. I said I said something about artificial intelligence, and she said that was scary. And initially I just wanted to agree, because I did, but as I was kind of hyper analyzing as I do, I started it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, holy shit. It is scary. But the scariest thing about it is the fear of it. Because all of a sudden I saw 1945 Germany. You know, I it was just a heavy thought, man. So, yeah. I think that's really all I have to say on it. What makes a human? What makes you human? Let that be your mantra, at least for even a few minutes. Just what makes you human? If you take away everything physical, are you human? If not, why not? If so, why? This has been Ferrosimo for pro.Gnosis. Signing out, spiritual soldiers. Thanks for joining me in this talk. And I'm gonna link that video down in the conversation. Love you.